Now, as we look at what the master gave to each individual in this parable, there were some that received more and there were some that received less. But I want you to understand they all received something, and they all received something that was of great value. There was great value to what each of them received. I believe this is important because I think all too often as humans we play the comparison game. And so we don't just look at what God has entrusted to our care, we also look at what God has entrusted into everyone else's care as well. And we say, well, look at what God has entrusted to that church, or look at what God has entrusted into the care of that person. They have so much more than we do. And we begin to minimize what God has entrusted into our care because everyone else has received more than us. So remember, while each of these servants were entrusted with different amounts of talents, every single one of them received something, and they received something that was of great value. So I want you to hear me. We are not to minimize what God has entrusted to us. Rather, we are to maximize what God has entrusted to us for the sake of His kingdom. As we look at what God has entrusted to us, we are not to minimize what God has entrusted to us. Rather, we are to maximize what God has entrusted to us for the sake of His kingdom.